Speech?
Yeah, online.
I never did mind speeches when I was in school.
They're funny. It's making golden.
As children, we're always asked what we want to be when we grow up. I never really had a real answer to that. I changed every time we were studying something else in school, and it varied from first woman president of the United States to a mortician or a cultural anthropologist. So if I could do any job in the world, I would be a fiction novelist because this allows me to study and learn new things constantly. Not many people understand the work that goes behind being one, however, so I'd like to take tonight to give you a brief description, tell you about some of the requirements, and describe to you how the salary works. I'm going to start by giving you a brief description. First of all, it's really, really hard work. You have to research and study every new novel that you write. You have to dedicate months of your life to a work that may not actually go anywhere. It may just collect dust on your shelf. And you have to expect rejection, because at least the first time you submit something to a publisher, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to accept it. They're going to send it back to you. You also have to work a lot with marketing. You're going to have to do book signings and book tours and go visit different bookstores all throughout the United States. And you're going to have a lot of flexibility in this job. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can write. You can use a laptop. You can use a desktop computer. There's 2 different keyboards you can use. You can either use the QWERTY, typical, regular keyboard, or you can use something called the doorback keyboard, which has all the keys that you use more frequently closer together. You don't have a set schedule. You can wake up in the morning and write. You can go to bed at night and write. There's no 9 to 5 set schedule. You can do it whenever you want to. If you get bored of working in one genre at any point in time, you can switch to another one. If you've been writing comedy for a long time and you get really sick and tired of it, you can switch and start writing horror stories. Now that I've told you a little bit about the description, I'd like to tell you some of the requirements. First of all, you have to be a good writer. You have to practice constantly. It's like any other job. You have to have a decent grasp of the English language, and you have to be able to compose a well-written story that catches your reader's attention. Nobody likes a book that starts out really, really interesting and then ends up just being boring all the way through the rest of the book. You're going to have to work with publishers and editors a lot. After your first book, if you sign a contract with a publisher, they're going to expect you to have your books out on time every time. Also, you're going to have to present each new book to your publisher before you write it, and they may or may not allow you to write that particular story. In the case of Terry Goodkind, he wanted to write a story that explained the backstory of his particular setting, and his publishers would not allow him to do it. So he had to turn around and self-publish it himself and publish it on Amazon as an ebook only. Now that I've explained to you some of the descriptions and requirements, I'd like to explain to you how the salary works. First off, you get paid in advances. An advance is paid when the book is sold to the publisher. And they pay it to you based on how well they think your book will do, whether or not it's your first time publishing a book, or how well your previous sales have done. Your book sales must then earn back as much as your advance made before you make anything else. According to Tobias S. Buckle, the median advance for the first-time novelist is $5,000. And after 5 to 7 years of experience, sometimes it's $12,500. However, bigger authors such as Stephen King can make as much as $40,000 in a single advance. Once you paid your advance, you make something called royalties, or stipends. According to Writer Services, authors generally make 10 to 15% off the discounted price of a book. Which means that if you see your book at a bookstore for $30, chances are the bookstore bought it for $15 from the publisher, and you make 10% off the $15. So you're only making $1.50 off of each book that you sell. And they're paid out in 6-month increments, because sometimes all the books that a bookstore orders on the first hit shelves don't sell. So the bookstores have the option of sending the first shipment back and waiting on the second one. You also need to decide whether or not you have a literary agent. A literary agent will handle most or all of the selling process for you. They will contact your publisher, they'll negotiate all of your terms. However, they're paid by you, which stops most first-time authors from using a literary agent. However, after after they've been stopped the first time, most of the time they go back and get a literary agent because they realize you actually make a whole lot more in the long run. In conclusion, if I could have any job in the world, I would be a fiction novelist because it allows me to do all kinds of new things all the time. Tonight I've told you a little bit about the description, the requirements, and how the salary works. I'd like to leave you with a quote by George R. R. Martin that I think sums up the way that I feel about writing and reading. It's, "A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies, and the man who never reads lives only one." Okay, back to you.